Hi again. I'm trying to figure this out. The best way to do this. Okay. I've been for my run and came home. We fed the masses, and I just wanted to relay my few of my experiences with cult members lately. That's what I've been calling them because it seems like a cult. One of them was in. They're all in supermarkets, of course, because it's the only place you go and you see people now. This mask mandate that we're all that we've seen in place has been in place since the 10th of August, and I haven't worn one of those things even once. So, because as I saw that this was looming, because although I don't consume mainstream media, I do get alerted as to what's out there. I kind of monitor via places like Twitter and things like that what's out there and kind of what's on the way, what's being said, what are the public being primed for next. So I had seen that, and I had done my own research on it, because like with everything, I've always been the kind of person who just, maybe I might go to the doctor for a particular thing, and I might get a diagnosis, and I might get a recommendation, and I might even get a prescription, but I'll go home then and I will research, what can I do myself for this? What could be an alternative? What could be something else I could try, something more natural, a more natural approach? Can I avoid taking the prescription? All of that. So I've always been that kind of person, including when it came to the births of my children. So, I had my twins via C-section when I was 22, nearly 23, 22. And after that I had 3 VBACs, and to do that I did a heck of a lot of research, reading, and armed myself with knowledge, and then sat in an obstetrician's office to be told by this intimidating guy in a suit, who will never and had never obviously given birth, tell me to my face like I was a stupid little woman who couldn't possibly know anything, who was just a baby haver, and he's the expert. And here I was sitting in his office, and he said to my face, "You're high risk, you're high risk, you're high risk." Imagine telling that to a pregnant woman, because when you're pregnant, you're in this whole other state, physically, mentally, spiritually. You're very open to other entities, the effects, spiritual effects of various things around you. You're very open to that. You don't treat a pregnant woman that way. You don't try and make her afraid. You don't try to disempower her. Well, it wasn't going to work on me, but it did. It did in a way, because it rattles you when someone says that to you, and you're high risk. It gets in there. Even though I had all the research in my hands, basically, that said, no, I wasn't high risk. I had no more risk of a uterine rupture than a first-time mother. So first-time pregnancy is like a clean slate, pretty much. The percentage of risk was the same. So, anyway, that's one example. Another example is when I had, after the birth of my 4th baby, for the whole year, he and I both had severe eczema. So he had it on his face and his neck and his chest, and it would get very, very angry and raw. And I had all over my legs in this like continental type patches all over my legs, and I was using all sorts of creams and everything, and I was desperate for something for it. So I went to the doctor and I said, could this be, diet related? Could it be something that I'm just not getting in my, that I'm not getting the certain, there's the cat chasing her tail. It's something that I'm not getting in my nutrition. She said, no, it's never diet related. So she gave me a prescription for a steroid cream, which of course you can only use for a bit, and then it comes straight back. So I went to the health shop of all places. I didn't even look for professional help in any other direction. I just said, look, I'm buying my cream here and I'm using this for my bad eczema on my legs, and my son has it too. And they said, are you taking your oils? And I said, no. And she said, try Udos oil. It has all the essential fatty acids in that you need, and your omega-3, 6 and 9, the right balance and everything. I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I tried it, and I put 3 tablespoons of that stuff in my smoothies every day for 3 weeks, and the eczema went. Mine went, and his went, because he was still breastfeeding. So these kinds of experiences kept happening, and I realised, okay, they have their band-aid approach, they have their symptom suppression, they have their, it all sometimes has a place. We need that, method of treatment, but it's not a health model. It's not a health model, it's an illness model. So I knew from all these years of kind of being, experiencing birth and backing myself up with knowledge, educating myself about breastfeeding, about natural birth, and about unschooling. And I knew that there's usually another way. There's usually an alternative. There's usually the health service has a one-size-fits-all approach, and it isn't always evidence-based. So I knew that mainstream medicine isn't always evidence-based. Therefore, I researched the mask thing, and I realised, okay, there's literally no science to support their use. And I realised that Carl Hennigan of Oxford University, he's the head of research for evidence-based medicine or something like that in Oxford University. He's the one who advised the Irish government. He had a, I don't know, I saw the footage from that meeting, that kind of Zoom, whatever it was. He advised them not to mandate masks. He said, bring in your mandate, make your policy for all you want. He said, but you can't then say it's evidence-based. And yet our government still did it. Okay, so they clearly hired this man, a scientist, to put forward his evidence. They wanted his expertise, they wanted the results of his knowledge, and then they ignored it. They brought in this absolutely, and I think now it's an evil thing. The masking is evil because it has convinced people. It has done something. It has aided the brainwashing to such a degree. It's disempowered people. It's changed how people see each other. We're not seeing each other's facial expressions. We're not seeing each other's smiles when we go out and about. We're not having those chats, because when someone's got a mask over their face, you don't approach them for a chat. And I was always very chatty out and about, and Irish people generally are. We love the chats. We love talking to random strangers about nothing. That's part of life, and it's a huge part of Irish life, and it's pretty much gone. And okay, so I digressed, but how I started was I was talking about the fact that I've never worn one, okay? Because I had researched and I had learned that it wasn't evidence-based, so I thought, well, I'm not going to just do something because I'm being told to. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the kind of person that just goes and does something that I'm told, even if I know that it's ineffective and it's not evidence-based. And it's like, again, going back to birth, it's like birthing in Irish maternity hospitals. They have their active management of labour. They have their protocol. They follow a factory kind of approach to birth, labour and birth and delivery and everything. So you enter into that without your birth plan in place and without your evidence-based method for yourself, then you're on their conveyor belt. And you're going to be going through their interventions. So they decide that they want to, induce you and give you Syntocin to bring on the contractions and hurry the labour along. If you go in unarmed with information, you don't know that can then have a knock-on effect on, say, for example, your baby's heart rate, and therefore, and your blood pressure, and therefore the baby's heart rate, and therefore the the distress the baby's under. Okay, so it's a cascade of interventions. That's what it's known as. It's a cascade of interventions because you give one intervention and then you end up having to take another because, oh dear, the baby's in distress now from the Syntocin because it's a false hormone. It's a fake version of oxytocin, and it brings on these very strong contractions which can then put the baby into distress. So you take that and then you have the baby in distress, and then they say, oh dear, we need to do a C-section. Or they give you Syntocin and that gives you really strong labour pains, and you think, oh God, I'm in so much pain, I need to have an epidural. And then the baby gets in distress because it brings your blood pressure down. And then they end up with C-sections. So this kind of thing happens over and over again. Now you can go in and have that cascade of interventions and still have a natural or a vaginal delivery. But what I mean is, if you go in and you don't realise that can have that this one intervention that you take and then mean you've got to take about 10 others or whatever, and that it can then have a negative effect on your birth and your baby's and your birth experience. If you go in not knowing those things, you've given your power up. You don't have control over what happens at all in any sense of the word. The natural birth process has been tampered with and can't be righted then. So if you know that they do these things in the mainstream, even though they're not evidence-based, then it's very easy to see that they've brought in this mandate which is not evidence-based. It has people believing that they're protecting themselves and each other. And the most insidious thing was when they brought in the mask mandate, they said, oh, you're not wearing it for you though. You're wearing it for other people. And when I heard that, I said, well, that's what I call, well, it's a bad word, but I call that mind fuckery, because they're messing with logic. They're twisting reason. They are turning people against each other. It's insane, really. So you as healthy people, you've all got to mask yourselves up, even if you've no sickness symptoms, no nothing. And it's to protect others, not yourself. I thought that was insidious. I thought that was quite evil. But I still knew I would never wear one because I already knew the evidence. I already knew that there wasn't any reason for this, and I knew that people hadn't worn them during the height of it in April, March and April and the rest of the summer until August. So I wasn't about to change what I was doing. But anyway, so my first experience of what I would call a mask Nazi or cult member, crazed cult member, they're deranged, not just with fear, but with this sense of self-righteousness that they've been endowed with by the government because they think that they're doing the right thing and that you're not if you don't do what the government says. We're in very strange times. I was there with my eldest daughter. We were nearly finished the shopping, and this woman approaches me from my side and she says, in a kind of frantic way, sorry, where's your mask? Where's your mask? And I took a moment to see who she was. Was she a staff member? Because I hadn't had any issues with staff member in there at that particular supermarket at all. I took 2 seconds to see who she was, and I thought, no, she's a customer. She's wearing a coat and a hat and her big, huge cloth thing over her face. And I said, instead of answering her, I said, who are you? And she said, it doesn't matter who I am. You're not wearing a mask and you're putting all of us at risk. I just looked at her and I said, if you sincerely believe, I said, do you seriously and sincerely believe that a healthy woman doing her shopping and breathing is putting you at risk? Is putting anyone at risk? And instead of answering me, she waved around the shop, shouting, she's not wearing a mask. She's putting us all at risk. Shouting this. Everyone was staring. It's a quiet shopping day. Everyone was just staring. And I went, oh my God, she shouted. I said, oh my God, you need help. And she started walking away from me. And then she walked over to the quick checkout. And instead, when I said, oh my God, you need help, she just shouted again, everyone, she's infected and she's not wearing a mask. She's infected. She's putting us all at risk. And I mean, she shouted. And I turned to my daughter and I said to her, I projected my voice while I was saying it. I said, "You see that, Leiden?" I said, "That's a brainwashed person. She's brainwashed." I said, "We have to feel sorry for her." And I said it so that people who were kind of near me would hear. I wouldn't shout and I wouldn't go on like a lunatic. When I came home and told my husband, I said, if they keep on doing that kind of thing, other people around them will be thinking, are we part of that? Are we part of the group of people that does that to somebody in a shop? It was mental. And I've since had similar experiences, not quite as mad, where someone was shouting that I was infected and I wasn't wearing a mask. I mean, that woman was psychotic. And I think that they've ramped up the psychosis out there. They've ramped up the insanity. And it's becoming more and more oppressive. And there's more of an atmosphere of not just fear, but just psychosis. That's what it is. It's psychosis. It's a cult. They're a cult. A fear cult, a death cult, like someone said to me. I don't know who it was. But that is what it is. And I just thought I would to talk about my experience. I don't mask up, and it's not because I'm selfish. It's because I know what's right for me, and I know, and this idea that we're all protecting each other by wearing masks, this is insidious. This is not true. This is not true. And it's a way of making people think they're responsible for other people's health. You're not. You're responsible for you. You're responsible for your family. You're responsible for your own health. But someone else wearing a mask isn't protecting you. It's not protecting your health. It's not protecting mine if you're masked up. It's just obstructing your breathing. It's a piece of cloth. And if you research a little bit about how viruses work, you'll see right through it. So, and it takes a certain kind of level of gumption or a certain disposition to go out and literally face people. Now, in these times, it takes a certain disposition. Not everyone can do it, but I certainly won't be putting one on at this point. This is January 2021 and I haven't worn one at all yet. So anyway, that's my view on masks for now.